All right, thank you everyone. Thank you for coming to Service Speaks. Yeah, so we do like meetups, every month, like at least like 1 or 2 times. Yeah, so I invite like all the people who are interested in our topics and also who are interested to learn new things. Yeah, welcome to Service Speak. So let me show some videos. So our purpose is to, help the communities, gather around, of course, like a small gathering, networking, meet with the people from different communities, different backgrounds. Yeah, so we always do this kind of activity. So it's we started since 2014 in Thailand, but we originally from Norway since 2009. So we moved our headquarters here. Right now, we are kind of like end-to-end digital consultancy services. A few months ago, we also joined forces with Morphosit. You guys already see the logos, right? So after we joined forces together, so we became like end-to-end digital consultancy services. So not only for the software engineering, we also good in the design consultancies, all the services. Yeah, so just small things about who we are, just a little bit share. We working very hard, and also of course very harder all the time. So yeah, we do a lot of activities just show a few moments that we had on the catamaran trip, a party inside, outside of office. Yeah, and also we have a lot of club in our team, office. We do a lot of activities running in the park, and also we go to the gym, graphics, play in the Xbox, in the office together as well. Yeah. So we don't a typical companies. We try to be more casual way, people have more flexible, things they can create new things, they can talk and they can enjoy and they can do wherever they want. We also eat a lot of food here, so we always have a free lunch twice a week. Yeah, in the team. The main things we just like to try the new thing, talk with the people, and also share the different culture. Yeah. Of course, we are hiring, we're always growing, almost 200 people, and we are still growing very fast. So if you or your friends who are looking for the job, we have current positions. We have backend, cloud, we have a QA, we have a PO, PM in the delivery, and we also have UX UI design services. So you can send the CV to jobs@servicesoftware.com, or you can also share to your network to apply to job at servicesoftware/careers. Yeah, we always hiring. Yeah, and also you can reach out to our team as well. So my name is Joseph. I'm from talent acquisition team, and we have a team a member here, so you can easily reach out to them if you have any questions. Or you can also drop the message in the Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever we have. very active like response. Yeah. You can also check out our upcoming meetups by scanning this QR, or you can also check on our social medias or LinkedIn or Facebook. We always update like what's going on next. Yeah. Actually, we're supposed to have one meetup tomorrow, but unfortunately, we have so many projects running at this moment, so we postpone to next month. Yeah. Try to keep in touch with us. We always organize this kind of meetups in office every month. And during the meantime, you can also grab us free, like a beer, drinks, and also we have like a donuts arrive. Yeah, free to grab, and we have like a pizza during the break time. All right. So I want to invite our first speaker, Giorgio. Give an applause to him.
Okay. Welcome. Good evening. And okay, I need this. This is the first introduction, the first presentation for our Spooky Cloud Realm Meetup. This evening, I'm going to speak about the monster of the Dev and Ops. Okay, first of all, I will introduce the cloud team here in 7 Peaks. We are 6 guys, and we enjoy a lot between the role of cloud architect and DevOps. These are our certification, more or less, because one slide cannot contain everything. I need to cut something. And like Joseph say, we study a lot, but also we play a lot. This is me. That is these beautiful costumes for the Halloween night. I started a long time ago, like 2006, in these amazing industries, that is the computer science and the IT. I several years of experience over spell cast in dark arts and of develop some software, test the software and application, or something like the undead army of the leading for this kind of applications. And there is my certification over there. Okay. Everyone scan the code when enter. Yes, we want your souls. Can we start? Okay, this is the agenda from the meeting, sorry. It's not the speeding stuff. No, okay, okay. Okay, why the DevOps is a monster? I'll try to explain when and why the DevOps rules and the DevOps culture was born. What are the extension of these monsters that we call monster for this night? And I try to explain some kind of monsters, called monsters. The blue one is the Azure, the orange one is the AWS, and the chat one is the Google. Okay, everyone knows that DevOps is develops and operations. Clear until everyone knows, right? Okay. Okay. And why DevOps is a monster? I follow the Halloween. I don't have the light. Allow me to tell you a story. Let me explain why the DevOps is a monster. Long time ago, there is 2 departments that and one application that we can call Bob. The first department is the department of the developers that need to develop, need to create the code for Bob. The other department is the department of the operations that are the people that should maintain, configure, deploy, and monitoring the application that now we call Bob. Okay, the day of the first release, over the first deployment, we have this weird situation. The developer was ready to deliver the code, and the operation was ready to put up and running. But according the silos structure of the two departments, the code was developed and probably tested. The server or the other cloud service was ready to accept this code, but no one was able to complete the operation. Something was missing. Everyone did his job, but something is missing. So, it's alive. The idea was born. The developer which want to develop Bob, they should be able to understand and implement the way to deploy Bob. The operation teams that want to deliver Bob to the customer, they should be able to understand and implement the way to configure, maintain Bob. Here, born the DevOps rules. And why this evening I call DevOps monster? Because is a monster that should understand both of the party. The part of the development, to understand how Bob is built, what are the components of Bob, what are the configuration that Bob needs, and all the other aspect of the testing and delivery. To the other side, the operation side, they need to know how Bob should be run, what is required to Bob to run, and how the information from Ops should be delivered in Dev, and which kind of information, and how the information of Dev should be delivered in Ops. So, both of them created this monster that should be hybrid, because have both of them in the two departments, but doesn't belong to them. It's something new. Probably who is old like me say Giorgio is not new. It's new for the categorization of the roles, but before there is DevOps that wasn't called the DevOps, was or some system administrator, or there is some developer with these kind of abilities that start to cross the two departments and allow the Bob to go in production. The monster, like Frankenstein, should be conscious, because need to listen and understand the two departments, and should be aware, because he need to be able to respond. What it means? Okay, I use this story just to explain what we now call DevOps culture. Now I don't want to enter in the DevOps culture, what is the DevOps culture, what is the principles, but I want to give you this story as a possible simple demonstration about the DevOps rules. The DevOps is only a practice that should be shared among the department of the IT company, in the engineering department if you want, or research and development, to integrate the communication and the sharing knowledge of them. For example, is everyone, for example, deploy, I don't know, how many people use the Kubernetes technologies or knows about that? Container? Okay, cool. If the developer don't can say what are your environment value, or where is the configuration, or what you need to write into the configuration, your application will never run. So this is a simple example for the DevOps, for the communication that should be built and consolidated among the two departments. I don't want to say that it's only communication. Now, the concept is very simple. Everyone has his own context scenario situation, and we complicate a lot the way on the tool that make this feasible. For example, if I don't want the cloud service, I use Jenkins, or I use Circle CI, or I use another one, I use my script, whatever you have. The way to pursue the DevOps is different for every context, because every Bob is different and developed by different people. So this is what the message that I want to deliver you. The tools is the last things to consider when we speak about DevOps. Okay, the monster start to, okay, it's simple, can be flexible. So along the years, is also hybrid. So start to create new boundaries, new connections. Born the security DevOps, where the DevOps extend or include, better include, the security team. What I mean, security team? Developer, tester, operation, plus the security team. Everyone need to share their information to deliver develop the application, deliver test the application, deliver the application, and make secure his application. If the security team don't say something, probably your application have some security issue. Simple as that. QA, the tester. These should be included in the DevOps because they should be running your application, your Bob application, and try to stretch him in all possible cases for the final user. So in that way, when you go in production, you don't have unexpected result. Okay. After there is the agile methodology, the agile culture that enter in the DevOps, or the DevOps entering the agile, depends about the point of view. I don't want to say anything about this. Everyone can see stuff as he wants. But these enter as part of the DevOps because also if the departments be called together, also the management of these people should be coordinated and should be integrated into the DevOps flow. Okay. Now with public. Fine. This is the theory. I hope that this thing I reach my goal, I fulfill my goal to give you the main concept of the DevOps. Now we are going to speak about the tools. Okay? All the public cloud are the colored monster here, and all the public cloud have the DevOps services. Okay, start from Azure. Azure have these 5 services: the Azure board, the Azure repos, the pipeline, the test plan, and the Azure artifact. Now I enter in the discussion of each of that, and I try to give you a practical example of this. Probably you need all the 5, you need only 2, you need 3, or better, you can use all the 5, only 2, only 3, only 4, all up to you. As I said before, your DevOps process belongs to you. Have something similar to mine, but it's not equal. They are not equal. Absolutely. Okay. There was a slide here. Okay, jump here. There is the discussion of how we structured, how organized is in Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps have one main container that is the DevOps organization. Each organization can have multiple projects. For example, the front-end project, back-end project, QA project, infrastructure project, whatever. One project have the collection of these 5 elements. Okay? And you can have multiple of these 5 elements inside. The first one is the Azure repos. The Azure repos, the default one is the Git. As everyone knows, the Git source control is the last distributed technology to I don't know this anymore, sorry, my fault. It's the last distributed technology for the control your file and push this into the repository with several rules that is called workflow that allow you to manage the release, the development, and the testing. You can have branch, feature branch, release, tag, and so on. There is I call Team Fortress 99 because is the source control version of the Microsoft TF Team Foundation version that is included in Azure DevOps for the legacy maintenance from the Microsoft. You can, when you create an Azure repos, DevOps repos, you can specify the default is Git, but you can change. This repository is can be integrated with the other services, such as the board and the pipeline. There is interest automations and integration when you place the code into the Azure repos and you start to integrate it with the board. There is automatic generation of the feature branch. There is automatic testing plan associated to your feature branch or your main branch. There is a possible automation for your deployment and delivery strategy that you decide for your DevOps organization, for your mob, just the pipeline, the main element of the DevOps. We have 2 kinds of pipeline, CI and CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. The pipeline can be the CI can be classic, so you go in the portal and you configure manually. Otherwise, you write a beautiful YAML file and you publish this. Go for every new behavior. The release is only classic. The pipeline have 3 other options that is fantastic for who using the on-premise or hybrid environment. Hybrid as a cloud and on-premise or multi-cloud and on-premise. Deployment groups, target, task groups, and libraries. Very fast. Deployment groups is the groups where you need to deploy. You have, for example, can be separated by environment. Dev, UAT, pre-production, production. Those are the target of the machine where your code should be wrote. Easy. Libraries is the set of the configuration and secret file. How many people have been clear the password of the database in your repository? If you want, this is a security issue because everyone that has access to this repository can see the password of your database. the library and the pipeline itself give you enough security level to hide this kind of information and keep secure your pipeline without publishing any secrets. Task groups is the common task that should be provisioned across all the pipeline. Probably you have 3 or 4, 5 applications that have some steps in common. You don't want to define every time. You define a task group and you can share across your pipeline. Very easy. If you have, for example, 3 or 4 from the end of the backend project, the sequence of the compilation and the test is always the same. Change only the configuration to execute that. You configure this so you can group the task, the common task, and you can share that across all the pipeline. So you build one, but you already start to build all the five for easiness. The artifact. The artifact is the production of the CI pipeline, and it is stored and shared across all the pipeline of the same organization and external organization. There is a way to share that allow you to version your compiled code. You can choose your name. You can choose your name, your versioning number. Otherwise, you can configure this and they do for you. You need to configure all the rules or ask you to configure that. And everything will go good. You live forever in your PLR. Configure once, share among everything. Done. Easy. Oh. The test plan. Test plan is something that all the developers won't avoid and is required to deliver the feature, not the bugs. Because the test plan is the tool, the service where Azure manage the execution of your tests. You need to configure, you can configure a planning of your test against the production development, against your production deployment, against UAT development. You can test each feature branch, each compilation of your code, each container that you build. And they have a fully automated integration among repos, board, and pipeline. When you configure the power and the strength of the test plan is the integration among the services. And is easy to integrate, for example, in your release pipeline. I give you a short example. I have my release pipeline, my CD pipeline for the production. I want to choose the blue-green deployment. How many people knows the blue-green deployment strategy? No. Okay. Blue-green deployment strategy is that I have the old version, the current version of the system. I'm going to deploy the new one. If the new one is not good, I am able to revert and come back to the blue-green. So I deploy the new version. I do the operation that needed to switch the version, the next. And I would run a sanity check, or I want to run my test over the production, with my test account in production. If the result of this test is green, okay, all fine, perfect. The new version is formally defined as the green one. And I can keep that, there is no issue. And otherwise I can revert my board. This is the agile, is the component of the agile in the Azure DevOps. Here you can configure the task of the development, the task. You can attach to the task this plan, and you can configure when this plan should be run. Sorry, when this plan should be scheduled and what kind of task that is called a working item should be affected. Area is completely integrated with the board, and you can define the area of the project of the feature where this test plan can run. At the end, you need to configure a project type. In this project type, you will have your structure for the working item, and by that, for example, in the working item, you can automate the creation of the feature branch in Azure Portal. Of course, this is only a small amount of integration that you can have for the board and for the other service. For example, Azure reminds you to want to push also for the Git workflow and the Git integration for the pipeline instead of use the Azure Portal. There is tons of plugins to integrate all the possible platforms that you want. So you need only to go and check what you can do and how you perform this. Okay, almost finished, don't worry. The other colored monster. Same idea in the orange monster. It's called, the Azure Repos is called code commit in AWS, code build, code pipeline, and code deploy. There are the pipeline that is the glue among the deployment, the deploy and the code build, and you can configure by both of the three, the last three, by a YAML file that where you can specify what is the several steps for your CI, for your CD, for the full flow of the deployment and test, of course. Google Cloud. But in Google Cloud works on containers, so at the end of the game they have the cloud container registry with the source repository and the cloud builder to make everything. More or less the concept, as I explained in the story, the concept is always the same. Need to integrate the dev and ops. The tools can be customized according to your context. Question? I go a bit far. Yes. Cool. Okay, who is the next one? Sirinat? Who you want? Come. It's your turn. If there is no question here. No question, so you can come. Yes, tell me.
I'm not familiar with Azure, but
yes.
About the artifacts, is that your image repository?
Can be.
Can
be. Sorry?
What else could it be then?
Because normally when you compile your image, you can store in Azure Repos or you can store in the container registry of Azure. Depends about your strategy. For example, if you have your Kubernetes cluster, probably the CI under specific condition can push into the repository, and the release need only to update the file for the deployment. So you have already the version of that. Can be for the development, but can be also for the feature branch. Because to have the QA to run, probably they have a test plan of the release pipeline, can run the automation script that they create against your feature branch. So you understand if you did a good job or not. For example, this is a possible scenario. It depends about it. Okay? Okay? Ready? Fine? Thank you very much. Guys, clap your hands.
Okay, good morning. Good evening, everyone. Okay, we going to start hybrid protein cluster with Azure. Okay. Okay, my name is Sirinat, or you can call me Om. I'm Cognitive Bangkok Community Lead and admin of Dev+Ops Thailand and the founder of Bangkok HashiCorp User Group, the group of Terraform and HashiCorp Vault and HashiCorp Ordinary. Okay, this is our outline for today. We are going to explain about hybrid Kubernetes cluster, why we need Azure Arc, how Azure Arc help you to govern hybrid Kubernetes cluster across cloud provider, and I will show you the architect and the showcase of the Azure Arc Kubernetes cluster. Okay, what is hybrid Kubernetes cluster? Hybrid Kubernetes cluster is the cluster that you created across cloud provider, like you have the cluster on GCP, on Azure, on AWS, but you would like to govern across cloud provider, so you have to group all the cluster and connect it to the control panel like Azure Arc, so you can manage all the cluster from single location. Okay, why we need Azure Arc? Some simple use case like I told you have many cluster or you have something to do on another cloud provider such as Alibaba Cloud, Google Cloud, and you have different cluster in different teams, right? Team A using AWS or team B using Azure. How to govern many Kubernetes cluster in single location. Okay, this is the first use case. If you have cluster on Alibaba Cloud and you would like to govern by using Azure Arc, so you connect the Alibaba Cloud Container Service for Kubernetes to Azure Arc and you set up the proxy with Azure Arc by Azure Arc Cluster Connect to connect from the Azure to Alibaba Cloud Cluster. So once you connect the Alibaba Cloud Cluster to Azure, you can use Azure Monitor or Azure Policy to manage or the same security as you manage the AKS cluster. The next one, if you have a cluster on Google Cloud Platform like Google Kubernetes Engine and you do some data analytics like database on Google Cloud Kubernetes Engine, so you connect the same way as Alibaba Cloud and you can still manage the cluster with Azure. You can use Azure Monitor, Azure Policy. Okay, the final one, if you have many teams like Team A use AWS or Team B use GCP or Team C, Team D use many clusters, you can connect all to Azure Arc and if you have many users in many cloud providers, you can also sync the user to Azure Active Directory and you manage the same way of authentication to all of the cluster. Okay, I will show you the architecture of Azure Arc enable Kubernetes architecture. Okay, this is the architecture of Azure Arc enable Kubernetes architecture. You have the Kubernetes cluster and if you would like to connect the cluster to the Azure, you have to install the agent and the agent will forward all the information to Azure, so you can manage of the cluster in different cloud provider like you manage Azure. Like you can manage policy, you can config monitor, you can config defender for security, and you can config Active Directory for authentication to different clusters. Okay, this is the picture show that you have indicator, you have on-premise cluster, you have the cluster on another cloud provider, you can connect all of the cluster to Azure and you manage the policy, monitor in the same single panel. Okay, I will show you how to connect the cluster to Azure. The use case I use the GCP, Google Cloud Computing Engine, and I will connect the engine to Azure Arc, and I will enable the monitor to show you we can monitor the Google Cloud Computing Engine using Azure. Okay, the first one you go to GCP and you go to Computing Engine and click create. Then you select the standard cluster and you input the cluster name, the cluster version, and the zone of the cluster. Note that if you choose the zone US West, you also have to choose US West for the Azure Arc also. Once we create the cluster, you have to wait around 5 to 10 minutes, and then you have to use the command dcloud container to get credential to connect to the GCP cluster. Okay, once you connect, you can go to Azure Portal and you have to add your existing computing cluster like GCP that I created earlier to integration. You click next cluster detail and you fill in the cluster name. Like I told you earlier, you have to select the same region. If you select the different region, like GCP, you select Southeast Asia, and Azure Arc, you select US. So the Azure cannot connect to the GCP because you select different region. Okay, you have to specify the tag like data center, city, or the team that created the cluster, and then you click run script. The Azure will generate the script, and you can use the script to connect your cluster to the Azure. Like in the use case, you have to copy all of the script to your terminal. That the terminal also connected to the GCP cluster. Once you connected the GCP cluster, you will get the status succeed, and you can go to connect the monitor to the cluster, so you can monitor the GCP cluster via the Azure Portal. Okay, once we connected the Azure monitor from Azure to the GCP cluster, you will see that you will find port like Matrix server, OMS agent, cluster metadata, and if you change the namespace, you will see the GKE workload. Additionally, you can also monitor CPU, memory, port, and node count for the GKE cluster. Okay, that's all of the presentation. Anyone have any questions? Have any questions? Okay, thank you.
everyone, I'm Massimo. I've been working in the industry of IT since 2013. I have more or less 5 years of experience using .NET. And I work on various technologies, both backend and front-end. And I'm currently working as a senior .NET developer here at 7pix. Today I'm going to talk about usage analysis with Azure App Insight. I divided this presentation into sections. The first one is an introduction to what Azure App Insight is. And the second one will cover more the usage analysis tools of Application Insight. I think I'll look first at what usage analysis is, and then what are the actual tools that we can use. Okay, let's start from Azure Application Insight. It is an application performance monitoring service that runs into Azure. It's part of a bigger service that is Azure Monitor. This is quite important to note because every time you look for documentation regarding App Insight, you will be redirected to Azure Monitor or Log Analytics. It can be a bit confusing at times if you don't know that. It is used to collect and visualize logs and metrics, and can be used both on server-side and client-side applications if they are deployed on Azure or not on Azure. And for the scope of today's, it can be used for usage analysis. So how does it work? Let's say we have this situation where we have a client app over there that we develop, that send a request to a web service like a web API that we also develop, send HTTP request, get some data and display on the website. Our web API in turn has several dependencies, both external like SQL and SQL Server, or an external service like an external API, and some internal services that we develop, so we have access to its code. Now, in this kind of scenarios, it's kind of tricky to structure logging in a proper way and access it in a easy way if we do, for example, logging to files and store the logs into the server where we deploy the application. So that's where Application Insight start to come handy. So to use it, basically we need to install on our application a small component, an SDK, to allow the SDK to read the data, the analytics data of our application and send them into App Insight, which is inside Azure, so it's in the cloud. Regarding the external dependencies, we cannot install the App Insight directly to these dependencies, as we don't have access to the code, but the component installed on our web API will understand that those are dependencies and start to analyze our usage of those dependencies. For example, if for an external API, we can get data like the response time of the API, how many errors we are getting from the external API. So let's say we set up everything correctly and we start to send the data to Application Insight. The first thing we can do is to access Azure from the portal and access the data, see reports directly inside the Azure Portal. Other things that we can do is to set up alerts. A very typical use case is to set up alerts on exceptions. So, for example, if the number of exceptions that one of our application generates exceed a specific number, we can send email alerts to stop some disaster happening quickly. Application Insight integrates also with Power BI, so Power BI can retrieve the data from Application Insight, and we can generate custom reports or do further analysis. Visual Studio comes by default with an extension to visualize the data that we have on Application Insight. It also exposes a REST API that we can use for additional integration. So, for example, if we want to visualize the Application Insight data inside the admin panel of our application, we can use its REST API. And we can export the data in JSON format to store it maybe somewhere else, or to save it before the retention period of the data expires. How can we start to send the data to Application Insight? There are 3 steps that we need to follow for any type of application, and we will see later for backend and front-end divided. So, first thing is to create a application inside the resource inside Azure. We can do it by the Azure Portal or Azure CLI. Once we created the resource, Azure will provide us 2 different keys that serve the same purpose. One is the instrumentation key, and the other is the connection string. The difference between the two is that the instrumentation key is kind of anonymous, so there is not it's not specified what kind of resource or external service should be using it. The connection string instead is specify who's supposed to use this connection string, and we can have multiple connection strings for the same Azure resource. The third part is to configure the application. This changes a bit depending on what framework we are using for the application. I give a couple of examples. One is a client-side application. If you are using any of the main JavaScript framework for front-end, you can use npm to install the SDK. So this is the command to install the SDK, and this is the basic configuration for the SDK. The connection string needs to be specified in the application. If you're not using, if SDK for your framework is not available, or you're using static HTML, you can use HTML code snippet anyway, and basically you just paste this in your page or in your layout if you're using some kind of MVC, and it will start to collect data about the user usage. For .NET Core applications, we need to follow these 3 steps. First one is to install the SDK NuGet package. Can be done by the UI of NuGet Package Manager or directly into the CS project file of your application. Then in the startup or program CS, depending on which version of the framework you're using, you need to add this line right after the create build command. And the last thing to do is to configure the connection string or instrumentation key, depending on what you're using, in the app settings. Once you configure it here, the SDK will automatically pull it at startup and start to send data to App Insight. So this is the menu of Azure App Insight. What we are going to focus on is this part in the red box for today. As you can see, there is an extensive tool set, but we are going to focus on this for today. Okay. So, usage analysis, by definition, is the process of analyzing in products data to understand how the user interacts with your application. Lets you understand things like which features are the most popular, the overall performance of your application, and basically, as a developer, I use it mostly to understand where the users find issues with application, if they are using it as expected or they are using different patterns. It is mostly done front end. This is because you want to analyze user behaviors, so you want to be as close as possible to the user actions. It is possible to do it, like for example, on a web API, analyzing requests to the endpoints, but you are just adding a layer in between the user action and the data that you are collecting. So it can be a bit misleading. Like, for example, if you have an endpoint that is triggered by 2 different buttons in your application, you don't really know at the point of what was the path that the user followed to trigger your endpoint. The tools that I find most useful in the usage panel are these 5. There are more, but this is what I find myself using the day-by-day work. We will go through this one by one and try to give some examples, some use cases, and what kind of questions you can answer using these tools. The first one is user. So, with the user tool, you can answer questions like how many users use your app over a given time range. The way that by default the users are counted is using the anonymous IDs inside the cookies, which means that if the same user accesses your application from 2 different machines or 2 different browsers or delete the cookies, the same user is actually counted twice, as many times as he performed these actions. To avoid this, you can configure the initialization of the SDK and provide it a method to understand which one is the real user ID of your application. For example, it can be taken from a JWT token or something like this. This is the UI that you get for the users tool. So let's do a quick example of useful information that we can get from that. So how many users in the last day clicked on the create a new ticket button of my application? So what we can do is to select what kind of event I want to see, the new ticket button in this case, in the last 24 hours, and what type of categorization of my data I want to have. In this case, the bars of this chart will be divided by 1 hour time frame. And the split by is what makes these bars of different colors. So you decide, in this case, is split by geographical data. So this information will appear at the bottom, and you will see for each of the bars what's the weight, let's say, of each of the cities specified. If you scroll down on this on the same page, you will get more information about the users that you are searching for. And at the bottom here, there is this meet of users panel, which I find very useful. Lets you select, for example, so 5 random users, and you can click on each user and see what action they perform in your application. There is another option in this panel that lets you select like the 5 most active users in your application. Next, we have the sessions. The sessions is very similar to the users. So you look at the same set of data, but the users are divided. Each user action is divided into sessions. How is a session defined? It's basically given the same anonymous ID. If the user perform an action now, and the next action that is going to perform happens after 30 minutes, it will be counted as a new session. If it never let the session expire for 24 hours, after 24 hours it will be counted as a new session anyway. Okay, so the view is very similar for user sessions and events, as you will see. An example can be how many sessions in the last 24 hours visited the home page. Once again, in the who use, we look at the event, in this case is a page view. And the time frame is 24 hours, and it's categorized by 1 hour. And the split by is done by operating system in this case. Scrolling down once again, the UI is very similar. There is one other thing that is very useful with sessions. So once you selected one session, you can see during this session what are the action the user performed. Okay. Events. So the events is look at the events regardless of the user that perform the action that triggered the event. So events can be custom events defined by code, requests, or page views. Each page view is counted when the browser loads the page from the app. Okay. For example, one use case can be how many times in the last 7 days the user click on the edit ticket button. This can be particularly useful for mobile development. So let's say you have a situation where you have one feature that you find out was kind of hidden in your mobile app, and you move it in. Like, let's say there is a feature that you want your user to use, but is the last one in the menu, and you decide that in the next version you are going to put it as first, so your user will be more likely to use it. So you do it, but it doesn't go as expected, so you don't get the response from the user that you wanted. Now, in mobile development, usually the users are responsible for performing updates on the application. So using a query like this one, where you split by application version, you can understand if the point is that the users are not going to use your feature, or is it because they didn't update the version of the application yet, so they didn't get it as first on the menu. Okay, just to recap the first 3 tools that we look at, they are both looking at events. All of them are looking at events and what user perform the events, but they are looking at them at a slightly different point of view. So for the user, we just care about user, they use features and in our application, and they are tracked by anonymous ID. The sessions are very similar to users, but each action is divided by session. So the anonymous ID is still what we are looking for, but there is also the session concept where we split the user action in multiple sessions. Regarding the events, we are just caring about the events themselves, so page load, request, and custom events. Okay, in this section here, I always ignore the first drop down, and this is because here is where we can select a cohort. A A cohort is basically a predefined set of user session events that you define because you plan to reuse it over time or in your team. To define this set of users, you use application inside the query language, which is a language very similar to SQL, to analyze data and retrieve data from application inside. They are more complex than normal filters, so you can achieve more than what you can do with the normal filters on top of the graphs. And they can be reused in the user session and event services. How to create a cohort? So if you click on the menu over there, if you don't have any existing cohort, the first page that you will see is the template gallery. So to create a cohort, you always need to start from a template. And there are 3 types of templates based on what are the type of entities that you want to create a cohort for. So user session events again. When you choose which one is the template that you want to use, this is what you will find. This page is divided in 3 parts. The markdown text session is where you describe what is this course for, and it's basically just documenting for others or for yourself in the future why you are creating it. The second one is the parameters, where you define what are the parameters that you want to filter by that are going to be used in the query section. In the query section is where you create the actual query that you want to use to filter the user, for example. There is a button query that you can use to preview the data and check if you are getting the result that you expect. When you are happy with your query, you can click on the save button there on top and start using your cohort. To use it, you can, example, go on the user panel, click on the show drop down and select what cohort you want to use. They are intended to be used in combination with the filters. So there are things that you can only do by filters and things that you can only do by the cohorts. Things like the time range you want to analyze cannot be done in the cohort. In the cohort, you're just filtering session, users, and events. So the last tool that we are going to look at, and what I found to be the most useful, is user flows. So user flows lets you understand how the user navigate through the pages of your application or through the events of your application. One thing that it's very helpful, I think, is that lets you understand if you have a loop in your flow, and you can visualize it by a graph, and it's kind of very useful. See at how to create one user flow. So the user flow always starts from an initial event, which can be a custom event, an exception, a page view. And once you selected what's your initial event, you can exclude any type of event from the chart. In case there are some events that are triggered automatically, or you are performed so often that will pollute your result, you can exclude some of them. Then clicking on create graph will generate something like this. We can change the number of previous and next step that we want to visualize. So to get a more useful graph, we need to have at least a few steps before and after your event. Okay, adding 3 steps before and 3 steps after lets you see how powerful this thing can be. So the line in green indicates where a session started. The one in red where the session ended. Then the thickness of the lines also let you understand how many sessions went through this specific flow, and that's pretty much it. Another thing that is very useful is that lets you compare what was your idea of your application, what was the intended flow, with what the user then are actually doing with your application. That's it. Any question?
Okay, I have questions. So, using App Inside with applications outside Azure, so do you have any experience with these scenarios? If yes, can you tell me what is? Okay.
Slowly?
I mean, using App Inside with application outside Azure, do you
Yeah.
have any experience with this scenario?
Yeah.
If yes, can you tell me like what is like pro and con? Yeah.
Okay, actually, if you're using application inside with some application that is deployed outside of Azure, it's generally not an issue. I have experience using it with .NET application hosted in AWS. So the SDK is there. You just need to configure parameters yourself. While I guess if you are deploying like apps in Azure, they can be provided directly by Azure. But no, it's not an issue usually, as long as you have an SDK for your framework.
Does Insights provide any insights? Does it provide any insights directly from like a database level as well? Like QuickSight?
Well, I guess if you're using SQL Server hosted on Azure, you might have some more insights. Because otherwise, the only thing that you can get is dependencies information. But honestly, I never used it with SQL Server.
Okay, I have some questions. How do I know that when I have to use this service? How do we know?
When you have to do it? Well, every time you need to log information from your application, it's not really safe to store your logs in the same server where you are deploying your application, because if you have problems with that server, you lose the application, you lose the logs as well. Then it depends. It depends what level of detail you need for your logs. If you are deploying an application in production, it's usually very safe, better to have your logs going somewhere else, and it's quite cheap, and you get a lot of tools to visualize your data, search through them. But yeah, depends on what you're doing. If you're developing like some simple application for a POC, probably there is no need to set up App Inside for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. There are no more questions. I guess we can eat. Thank you.
Okay, I close the meetup. Please give us your feedback scanning this QR code. Your feedback is important for us to enhance the quality and the contents of our 7 big speaks. Please let us your feedback, and after feel free to grab 1 or 2 slices of pizza. After, I need to say thanks to Camps this evening, and thanks for your participation. Guys, if you can grab the pizza only if you leave us the feedback. Otherwise, you cannot. Okay?